The judge looked straight at her and said, "You'll be paying him spousal support." Her mouth dropped open. She thought she was getting half of everything. Instead, she was ordered to pay me because I proved she'd been hiding money throughout our marriage. She tried to scream in court, said I was lying, that she was the victim, but I had receipts, bank statements, emails, hidden accounts under her sister's name. Everything she tried to bury finally came to the surface. It wasn't always like this, or maybe I just didn't see it. When I met her, she was charming and full of energy, the kind of person who could make friends in 5 minutes at a bus stop. She had a laugh that made people turn their heads. We met at a friend's birthday party. She was dressed nice, smelled expensive, and talked like she had everything under control. She said she worked in marketing. Big clients, long hours, high pay. I didn't mind. I had a good job too. I worked in IT and had a stable salary. I liked that she was ambitious, independent. After a year, we moved in together. She paid her half of the rent and bills. At least she said she did. Little things didn't add up. Sometimes I'd cover her part because of client delays. She'd promise to pay me back, but then forget. Still, I thought relationships aren't about keeping score. We got married after 3 years. Small wedding, nothing fancy, and neither of us wanted a prenup. She called it cold and unromantic. Looking back, that first red flag should have been enough. By our 2nd year of marriage, I started noticing strange behavior. She was always on her phone, but would tilt the screen when I walked by. I'd ask, "Who are you texting?" She'd laugh and say, "Work stuff, boring." She took more business trips than ever before, always last minute and always to meet a new client. She stopped sharing work details. No more stories about coworkers or campaigns, just vague answers like, "It's going fine," or "Same old stuff." I asked once how much she was making now. She said her income hadn't changed much. But when I checked our shared expenses, it felt like I was always the one paying more. At the time, I still thought I was overreacting. Then one day I got home early. I walked through the door and heard her end a call suddenly. She looked surprised to see me. I asked if something was wrong. She said, "No, just a vendor, wrong number," but her face was pale. What I found next made my stomach drop. I opened our shared laptop to look up a recipe. Her browser was open. I saw tabs for bank logins, not ours. I clicked one. It asked for a password, but the tab name showed a credit union I'd never heard of. I started thinking, was she hiding money? The next day, I checked our tax returns. That's when I noticed something odd. Her reported income was lower than what she used to mention back when we dated. I remembered her telling friends she made 6 figures. Now the form barely showed $50K a year. It didn't make sense. When I brought it up, she got defensive. Said she had a bad year. Said taxes were more complicated now. She brushed it off, told me to stop acting like an accountant. But something felt off, really off. So I started digging. I quietly reviewed our joint bank account history. Around the same time I noticed her pulling back, there were transfers. $500 here, $1,200 there, all labeled consulting refunds or client expenses reimbursed. But they vanished quickly. I checked with my lawyer friend. He said if I ever needed to split assets, I'd better get records now, especially if I thought she was hiding income. So I kept going. I went through old emails, then backed up her phone when she left it charging in the kitchen one night. What I found there sucked the air out of my lungs. She had another checking account, not under her name. It was opened under her sister's, but every deposit line matched the timing of her client trips and vendor calls. Over the last year and a half, she had moved over $92,000 into that hidden account. She also had Venmo messages with a guy named Alex. The messages were flirty. At first, I thought, maybe just an affair. That would have been bad enough, but no, it was worse. They were talking about splitting profits from a side business. Apparently, she started marketing consulting on the side. Big clients, lot of cash, all under the table. No taxes, no mention to me. "Keep it in Lisa's name," she wrote in one message. "He doesn't suspect anything." I couldn't believe it. She lied about her income, hid a business, used fake names, while I supported most of our life. I felt sick. That was the moment I knew something was very wrong. I went to a divorce attorney, brought every document I had, screenshots, account numbers, tax forms, messages. He looked at me and said, "You have a very strong case, but she's going to try and flip this on you." And she did. When I told her I wanted a divorce, she exploded, threw a glass across the room, screamed that I betrayed her, tried to gaslight me. She said, "You're paranoid. You always blamed me for your own insecurities." Then she got cold, real cold. She lawyered up and sent me divorce papers asking for half of everything. The house, my retirement savings, even a share of a family inheritance I got 2 years ago. I was stunned. She claimed I was emotionally distant and that I owed her for the time she spent building our home. But I had something she didn't know yet, full proof of her hidden income. We went to court. She showed up confident, smiled like she already won. But then my lawyer presented a 42-page document. Hidden accounts, forged business records, false tax reporting, side business registered under a different name, even transcripts from text messages. That smile disappeared fast. The judge read through it all, took her side's papers, then looked right at her and said, "You misled the court, underreported your income, violated marital transparency laws, and sought equal assets while hiding business revenue." He turned to me and said, "You are entitled to an adjusted division and potential support given the financial misconduct." She gasped, tried to yell, but the damage was done. In the end, I kept the house, my retirement funds, the car, and for 18 months, she has to pay me monthly spousal support. She walked out of that courtroom shaking, red-faced and whispering, "This isn't fair." But it was fair. She built a lie. I just exposed it. Now, she moved into a small apartment outside the city. The side business collapsed after clients found out about her history. Her sister hasn't spoken to her since. Last I heard, she's working part-time and blaming bad luck for everything. As for me, I'm steady, got therapy, focused on my work. I'm dating again, but carefully, slowly. I learned a lot. If a partner starts hiding money or avoiding simple questions, pay attention. If they twist the truth easily, they'll lie about bigger things. And always trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. What would you have done in my place? Would you have pushed this far? Or tried to just walk away? If you've been through something like this, a toxic partner, hidden betrayals, financial lies, tell me your story in the comments. If you want more stories like this, with cheating, lies, and karma, hit subscribe and don't forget the bell.
Verdad había sido también aceptar el derecho a amar sin miedo, aunque ese amor hubiera nacido en la sombra de lo prohibido. Una verdad dijo más que todos los juramentos. La identidad era suya, y con ella la libertad de escribir su propio destino. La última palabra de la carta quedó en la mente de Clara como una promesa cumplida. Ella guardó el papel y por primera vez sonrió a la idea de pertenecer a algo que ya no se escondía. Su vida cambió y con ella, la casa antigua aprendió a respirar con más franqueza. Al amanecer, mientras el alba bañaba las piedras, Clara salió a la escalinata y miró al horizonte. Comprendió que la herencia que recibía no era solo dinero ni tierras, sino el derecho a nombrar y a ser nombrada. Y con esa certeza se prometió no callar nunca más.
Moved into an apartment 2 towns over. He found work in a smaller firm. The job paid less. He had to take the bus. He called a few times at odd hours and asked about the kids. I let some calls go to voicemail. I answered others with short words. People who had used to be close drifted away. He lost some friends. He had few people at his new place. The mistress, she met someone else. She moved out of state. She sent one short text to me, saying, "He was never who I thought." I deleted it. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like the truth finally catching up. Watching him pack his life into boxes was not sweet. It was quiet. The smallness of it felt like the only punishment that fit. After the court, I sold my wedding ring. I used the money to get legal help and to rent a place for my son and me. I started therapy. I joined a support group for people who had been cheated on. I learned to say the words, "I deserve better," out loud, without apology. I learned to spot red flags. I learned that secrets are the first step to a different life. I learned to trust my gut. My body had known before my head did. I had been told I was paranoid. I wasn't. The house felt empty for months. I painted one wall a color I liked. I bought new curtains. I made a small garden in pots on the balcony. The child and I named the herbs. We made simple dinners. We listened to music and danced in the kitchen like we used to. Months later, my ex sent a message asking for a meeting to talk. I met him in a public place. He looked tired. He said he missed what we had. He asked if he could see the child occasionally. I said yes, but on a schedule. I said I would keep things calm and safe. I saw him once when he came to pick him up. The child hugged him like children do. He didn't ask questions. He smiled and went. I watched him go and felt only a soft ache. People ask me if I regret following him that night. I don't. It hurt at the time. It cost a lot. But the truth was worth it. If I had stayed quiet, things would have gone on. The transfers would have continued. The lies would have deepened. That thought kept me steady during the darkest moments. A few months after the final hearing, I moved into a small house with my son. It wasn't the big home we once had. It wasn't a palace, but it was ours. I planted lavender in the yard. It smelled like calm on summer nights. Life rebuilt slowly. I found small joys. A morning coffee that I drank in a quiet mug. A friend who showed up at the right time. A night when I slept without waking to check my phone. I chose not to leave my story as only pain. I started a blog. I wrote short notes to myself about the red flags and the small steps. I wrote about the motel receipt and the bank transfers and the voice note. I wrote about how evidence felt heavy and brave at the same time. I learned that asking for help is not weakness. I learned that the right lawyer matters. I learned that evidence does more than ruin someone. It frees the person who was living the lies. My ex remarried a year later. People said it was fast. People said things about him that I did not repeat. I heard he had to pay a settlement to the mistress one time because she claimed he had promised her money. He was not wealthy anymore. He started to work nights. The final twist I want to tell you is this. He once told a friend, "She ruined me." The friend laughed and said, "You ruined yourself. You made your choices." He could say he was ruined. Or he could have chosen differently. The difference was his alone. What would you have done in my place? Would you have followed him one night? Would you have kept the receipts and the messages? If you have ever been told you were paranoid, listen to your gut. Find evidence. Talk to someone. Keep a list. Keep copies. Protect yourself and your children. If you have lived through something like this, tell me your story in the comments. If you want more stories about cheating, betrayal, and karma, subscribe and turn on the bell. We share these stories to help each other.